One of the innovative things that we did at SS&G is launching our leadership coaching and succession planning practice, which is headed by Dr. Stacy Feiner. As a licensed psychologist with extensive business experience, Stacy brings a unique insight and skill set to us and our clients. Stacy is going to talk to us about innovative culture and talent management.
I wish I could work the stage like Jill, but I'm standing right here. Do these men look familiar to you? These two men changed our world. These two men changed many things about our world. Nikola Tesla, the inventor, he's on the left. And Thomas Edison, the improver. Electricity was their medium. The AC/DC wall outlet, the light bulb, wireless transmission of electrical current, and the ray gun. I have a quick question. Does anybody here live off the grid? Anybody live without electricity? Maybe once a year when you go hunting or camping? Then these two men changed your life. One lived in Europe, and the other lived in America. And the story goes that Nikola Tesla, when he was a young, eccentric, genius inventor, he lands a job at the Edison Company in France and works as an inventor. His boss, Tesla's boss, realizes immediately that he's a genius and observes him very closely for a number of months. And then the boss makes a decision. He composes a letter, he puts it in a sealed envelope, and he hands it to Tesla with a ticket to America. And he instructs Tesla to hand this letter directly and personally to Mr. Thomas Edison. Sure enough, Nikola Tesla arrives in New York City and hands the letter to Tesla. And the letter reads, "I am sending this young fellow to New York. I know two great men in this world, you and the man standing in front of you." That's quite an endorsement, wouldn't you say? But what's really amazing about this story is that these two men met each other when one lived in Europe and the other lived in America in the 1800s. It was not easy to get to meet, for these two gentlemen, for these two talented, great people to meet. They had to get into a cargo ship and travel months or weeks over rough seas before they were able to find each other. It's not like they have LinkedIn or tweets or things like that. They had to travel far and over rough seas. And we'd think that the hero in this story were Tesla and Edison. But in fact, the real hero in this story is the boss. You all are the real hero in this story, because it's the boss who makes the ultimate commitment to leadership. This boss, Tesla's boss, paid attention to his people. He let talent surface. He understood how talent connected across the organization. He was willing to part with great talent for the benefit of the organization. And he was decisive, and he took extreme action. It was the boss who sent Tesla to meet Edison in New York, because it's his job to know his talent and to know how to optimize their ability to reach their goals. Oh, I missed a slide. Tesla and Edison represent two important necessary parts of the innovation equation. Tesla is the consummate inventor, and Edison is the consummate improver, producer, developer. And innovation is the sum of talented people coming together, making something new that matters to many. And everyone here, you're all seeking innovation to improve the bottom line, right? To catapult your company beyond your competition, to be relevant in your industry. or renowned across all industries, right? That's why we're here. And when talent does come together, they ask questions, good questions, and they circulate ideas, ideas that will matter to the growth of your company. Inventors are in the habit of asking the question, what if? What if I could make this impossible thing happen? What if I could take this idea, this concept, this dream, and make it possible? Disrupt malaise in your company with possibility. Wreak havoc on your competition. And improvers are in the habit of asking the question, how can, right? How can I make this impossible thing happen again? How can I make it reliable and predictable? How can I prove it's not a fluke? You know, you can't just say that you have innovation in your company. You can't wave a magic wand, you can't shake a fist or pay people more money or throw together some brainstorming sessions. You have to create the environment. Talent management is the way that you can create the environment for people to do their best work. There isn't one leader I know who doesn't have financial data at their fingertips, right? There isn't one leader. Every leader I know has at least 4 people who provide them with financial data. Let me go through the list. Your controller or CFO, or perhaps you have a finance department, your accountant, everyone with P&L, your banker, your financial planner, your tax attorney, your insurance provider, your audit and risk manager. Did anybody count how many that was? It's a lot. You have a lot of people providing you with financial data. How many people do you have who you rely on that provide you with talent data? It's not rhetorical. I'm asking you to really think about this. How many people do you rely on who provide you with talent data? And is it quality real-time data? Because knowing your talent is as important as knowing your numbers. I'm going to remember this time. A working knowledge of your talent pool makes your company agile. But what's most likely happening in your company is that you can't reach your top talent because your low performers have your time all locked up. A business owner called me one time named Robert, and he asked if I could help him solve a problem. A conflict had taken over his company. The root of the problem existed on his management team. His president and his head of operations were on a crash course, and everybody in the company knew it. And the problem had existed for years, but it had escalated recently, and Robert didn't know what to do, partly because both of these leaders he regarded as his trusted advisors, and he didn't know who to trust. And while all this infighting was happening, nobody was paying attention to employee performance and customer service. And here's where I stepped in. We took 3 deliberate steps to get Robert back in the driver's seat. The first step was we had to restabilize the company. And we did this in 2 specific ways. One is we delivered a series of communication to reassure the employees that we had identified the problem and that immediate action was going to be taken. And the second thing we did is we scheduled and had many one-on-one meetings with the employees and Robert, so Robert could begin to piece together his own view of what was really happening in the company. Because again, he had been relying on 2 other people who now were at odds with the advice that he was giving him, with the advice that they were giving him. The second thing we did was we reorganized the company. We identified a talented leader in the company who replaced the president, and then we became very explicit with the performance objectives of the COO, because it had been clear that that had become a little bit murky. And we made a number of other staffing changes in the organization, as you can imagine. And the third thing we did was we rebuilt the culture. We laid out a vision, we rewarded desired behavior, and we also disincented negative behavior. And we began to walk the walk. And I'm very proud to say that today, 3 years later, now don't sigh, 3 years later, there was a lot of work we did. 3 years later, this company is 100% focused on customer service. And they are serving multiple offices, multiple generations, and they're growing their revenue. And I share this story with you partly because I'm proud of it, but also because I want you to understand that talent is not elusive. There's a methodology for overseeing and managing and leveraging your talent. And and it's called talent management, and there are 4 key imperatives that talent management delivers against: culture, leadership, talent, and succession. And I have one or two questions for each one of these imperatives so that you can begin to gauge yourselves on this. And again, these are not rhetorical questions. If I were sitting right in front of you, face to face, eye to eye, you wouldn't be able to escape the question. So please, pretend I'm looking at you eye to eye right now and answer these questions for yourself. For culture, does your company have a high level of employee engagement? And do you believe you could measure that? Can you assess for that and measure it? You can. Leadership. Do your leaders have a shared language for evaluating their direct reports, their talent? So when you compile this data, you can compare your talent across the enterprise. So I just want to say that again because I messed up on my point. Do your leaders have a shared language for evaluating their talent? So when you compile the data, you can see and compare the talent across the enterprise, because that's the only way you can have a working knowledge of your people. Talent. Are your recruiting efforts aligned with your succession planning? And finally, succession. Can you look ahead 3 years and forecast with relative accuracy the talent that you're going to need in the future? When these imperatives are working, you definitely have created an environment for people to do their best work. Now, I have 3 examples: Google, Costco, Starbucks, and there are many more who we believe have great cultures. They don't own the master plan for great cultures. And it's no mystery how they do it. It's done through talent management. It's the engine behind your 4 key imperatives. And it's a predictable, consistent, reliable process. Oops, I'm sorry. I get so caught up in my ideas. If you look at this diagram, you can see that talent management has 3 specific functions, each with 3 specific centers of excellence. It's all about getting your A players in your A positions. And it's everything that you read about. It's everything you're reading about in the Harvard Business Review, in the Wall Street Journal, in your business books. This is really good to great. This is really how you create an environment for people to do their best work. And when we start the work, we start with what you already have. So you might already have training and performance management. And then we build each center of excellence to link to the others so that they are linked together and intricately related. Usually when I start these projects with people, I usually see that recruiting is fragmented from succession planning. Usually recruiting is seen as a cost center, and it's staffed by an entry-level professional. And succession planning is usually seen as a strategic effort, and these 2 things are fragmented, when in fact, these 2 things, when linked, allow you to be focused on building bench strength at every level in the organization. I also see sometimes that training is seen as a compliance effort. You do a lot of training to serve your compliance regulations. And performance management is seen as some HR paper-pushing necessary evil. But when these two, when training and performance management are linked together, this shift helps you start to see the difference. This shift moves you from compliance to development. And ultimately, it trickles down to your managers, and your managers are able to develop their leaders and develop their direct reports much more effectively. And every leader I've ever worked with is hungry for talent inventories. Talent inventories create a compelling story and give you a three-dimensional view of your talent. And when this process is built, you will be operating your company with a working knowledge of your talent. So, what can you do? Well, what do you want to do? What are you willing to do? What does your company need you to do? And what do you do as a leader to peak perform? You create an environment for people to do their best work. You know your talent as well as you know your numbers. And you have a talent management platform so you can operate your business with a working knowledge of your talent. Back to Edison and Tesla. So who is the hero in the Tesla-Edison story? The boss. You're the hero of this story. And perhaps we will never know who was whispering in the boss's ear on talent management in the Tesla-Edison story. But for you, who will be whispering in your ear? Every elite athlete works with a coach. Ambitious business leaders should too. If you look at this slide, this short guy on the right, his name is Shaka Smart. He was an assistant coach at the University of Akron, and then his first head coaching job was at VCU, the Virginia Commonwealth University, and in 2 years he took that team to the Final Four. And I mention him because he invented what's called the havoc philosophy. Disrupt malaise in your company with possibility. Wreak havoc on your competition. Again, let me ask you, who is whispering in your ear? Think of it this way. Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, the best quarterbacks in the world, paid $60 million a year. They have 6 coaches, a strength coach, a throwing coach, a running coach, a sports psychologist. Do you have a coach? Who is whispering in your ear? Thank you. I'll take questions. Anybody with questions? Burning questions. Yes, please. Oh, can you wait for the mic? I was asked to say that. They paid me $5.
You referenced the three-dimensional view of talent. Can you identify those 3 dimensions?
That's my secret sauce. Well, talent inventories, I referenced I'm sorry, ask your question again. You asked...
You mentioned 3 dimensions of talent. Can you identify those 3?
3 dimensions of talent?
Three-dimensional view of talent.
Yes, that's my secret sauce. I beg your pardon. Yes, and I referenced that in terms of talent inventories. So talent inventories is a process. It's one of the centers of excellence for talent management. And basically, it brings together 3 specific perspectives to the CEO and owner of a company. It brings together the manager's view of talent. So the manager has a view of an evaluation of their direct reports. So it gives you a perspective of the direct reports of your managers. But as your managers are talking about their evaluation of their people, you are also getting a view of how those leaders view talent, right? So that's the second. How do your leaders view talent? How do they view the talent? And then how do you compare the talent across the organization? Those are the three pieces. Yes, Kevin Prather.
Stacy, how do you define corporate culture and break that down in relationship to, because oftentimes we see leadership's view of a corporate culture may actually be different than what the rank and file might determine, and how do you connect the two together to make them homogeneous?
Well, I would say culture actually are those four imperatives. So culture, leadership, talent, and succession. That's one way of looking at talent. But more kind of a deeper dive, I would say I would say that culture is best understood from an employee engagement perspective. So when employees are engaged, that's what helps your culture to flourish. And there are four questions that need to be answered positively by employees for you to have positive, strong engagement. One is, do your employees feel that, or do your employees know their objectives? Do they have the tools to accomplish their objectives? Do they feel appreciated? And do they feel that there's opportunity for them to grow? And those are the four things I think that are most relevant to defining culture. Thanks. Yes, a question here. Can you just wait for Floyd? He's got the... Thank you.
Who are you suggesting should be whispering into the owner's ears?
Well, I think in...
Internal or external? Or both?
Well, I think for the purposes of, well, I think I said it pretty clear in the presentation that you should have a coach whispering in your ear. And I don't think you can get Shaka Smart because he's still working on his team to get back to the Final Four. I certainly do whispering. I certainly do the whispering in people's ears. But I think it's important for fundamentally. I think this all boils down to the boss, the leader, you. You're the hero of this story. And I would just say really simply that I believe that self-awareness is your ultimate competitive advantage. So we're talking about competitive advantage, we're talking about innovation, and I would say that the more self-aware you are as a business owner, the better you have, the better your competitive advantage. So I would say a coach and probably external. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much for your attention. I really appreciate speaking with you today.